Welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist and nutritional blood microscopist. Today is October 11th, 2021, and this is podcast number 104. What I'm going to talk about today is a huge topic, and I'll try to simplify it as much as possible, and that topic is cancer. So cancer has a lot of similarities depending on all the different types of cancer. All of these similarities, all these conditions will be constant. Cancer is an effect of cell crowding. So cancer doesn't destroy things. Things don't dissolve like rust on metal. It's crowding. The cells grow as a result of a mutation, and this excessive growth crowds out healthy cells, and that's how people die. Everything gets crowded out. Now, the good thing is once cancerous cells are destroyed and once a tumor shrinks, the cells that were crowded grow back to normal very quickly, meaning once whatever was crowding them is eliminated, the cells go right back and the organs go right back to where they were. So, if I'm going to say anything good, that's about the only thing. Now, the main point of this podcast is to go over the various potential causes of cancer and to really go over what you have control over. So, one of the main causes of cancers is genetic, and this would fall in line with family history. So people think if they have a family history of heart disease or a heart cancer or say a prostate cancer or breast cancer, that they're going to have it. And that's not necessarily true. If you do nothing, you get it. Back in the genetic line, hormones, especially breast cancer among women, sometimes there's this link to estrogen content, and they say the cancer is fed by estrogen. That's also very controversial, not quite true. But the bottom line is any genetic causes you don't have any control over. So you can minimize those through what we're going to be talking about, but you've got it. You've got that genetic link. So you'll have to do something, but there's nothing, it's not your fault, essentially. Okay, another main cause for cancers are environmental toxins. So we live on a very toxic planet. Again, nothing you can do. You can protect yourself as best you can, but again, not your fault being on a toxic planet. So there have been studies that show various bacteria cause cancer. Various pesticides in the environment cause cancer. Radiation, cell phone radiation leads to brain cancer. And in the newsletter, I also talk about pesticides and the Roundup pesticide and how people use this to kill weeds and then justify genetically modified organisms. Again, it's toxicity. It's something around us, something we're eating or drinking or breathing, and this even falls in line with radiation. So the toxicity from radiation, you can't see it. There's not a lot you can do. Yes, you can turn off your cell phone at night and you can turn off your Wi-Fi, but it's all in our environment. A third main cause for cancers that you've probably read about is some form of nutrient deficiency. Well, I must say, if you're not eating enough of a particular nutrient and end up getting cancer, that's on you. I mean, that's quite rare for someone to eat so poorly that they're deficient of of something like vitamin C or vitamin D or vitamin A. So nutrient deficiencies, most of us have a handle on that. Even if you just sometimes eat fruits and vegetables, you probably will not develop cancer because of a nutrient deficiency. And that leaves the main cause of cancer that you do have control over, and that is the mental element, our minds, our thoughts. So I'm going to go over 5 emotions, and these are the bad emotions and the organ that they affect. And the thing you must remember is your thoughts are so powerful. If you only knew, you would only have good thoughts. So for these bad emotions, anxiety is one of the bad emotions. It could even be considered one of the worst, extremely common. It affects the stomach. So you'll notice people that worry a lot, and I don't like to use that word that starts with W, but people with a lot of anxiety typically have stomach problems, and this is a way for you to remember, or a mnemonic for anxiety. And I'll go through the other emotions, and there'll be a mnemonic for them. The second emotion is fear. That affects the kidneys. You've probably heard the phrase, I was so scared I peed my pants. So that's the way to remember that fear tends to affect our kidneys, and vice versa. The third is anger. We all have heard of alcoholics. When people get drunk, they get angry because alcohol is a depressant. It affects the liver. So anger is linked to liver and liver issues. Very common issue in our country, in the world, because of so much toxicity. The liver has to process all the toxins, every food, every pharmaceutical product, even every impurity in your supplements. The liver has to break those down. But liver is linked with anger, and anger is linked with liver. The fourth is depression, and that is linked to the lungs. So people that are depressed tend to do shallow breathing, and that's your mnemonic with depression. They just don't breathe well. And what would the solution be? Well, I talk a lot about breathing and breathing techniques, both in the office and on these podcasts. And I've also made a couple of videos on breathing techniques. The last one is hate. So love and hate, opposite emotions, linked with the heart. So you may think, well, hatred is similar to anger. Not really. You can be angry at someone, but you could just be in a state of anger, and then hating is just a very strong negative emotion, and it affects the heart. So again, your thoughts play a big role in your health, and they also play a big role in that horrible disease known as cancer. Now, where I started learning about this link between the mental side of our bodies and cancer, as well as everything else, there was a book in a chiropractor's office when I was there back in, I believe it was June, back in Tennessee. I remember it was in the spring sometime. And I saw this book on the counter of the chiropractor's office, and I was visiting, doing blood microscopy there. And that's what this book was about. And I started thinking about the people I know with cancer. And in every case, I could link their cancer to something going on in their head, some thoughts. And sometimes these people are just, let's just say, mean people living in a lot of anxiety or stress. people that are angry all the time, people living in fear, people that hate, and sure enough, they develop cancer, as well as other problems, other diseases, like I had mentioned, the heart disease or stomach problems and things like that. So that is the mental side, the thought side of cancer, and it's something we have control over. The others, we don't have as much control over. We can do a little bit, but it's the thoughts that are most important. Now, let's see what we can do. What do we have control over? Well, we can make our immune system very strong and active. So all of the cancer cells will be destroyed by a type of white blood cell in our immune system called a T cell or T cell lymphocyte or a killer cell. Those all mean the same thing. Now, we want our white blood cells to be large, size equals strength. We also want the inside of the white cell to be moving, and that means an active immune system. We've all learned in the past year and a half what to do to improve our immune systems, because now all of a sudden everybody's interested in their immune system due to a certain problem that manifested last year, shut down the world. So we know about vitamin D, whether we go in the sun for 15 or 20 minutes, or we supplement with, say, 2,000 IUs 2 or 3 times a day. We all know about vitamin C. Best way to get it is eating citrus, much better than supplementing, though if you don't have access to citrus or you're allergic to it, well, then you would take a vitamin C supplement. But the food is always better. Selenium, we would get that from eating 2 or 3 Brazil nuts every day. Zinc, typically you would supplement, so that would be something you would routinely supplement with unless you're eating lots and lots of fruits and vegetables. Since zinc is in the soil, you would get that mineral from eating fruits and vegetables, something grown in the soil. Now, the best way to get those white blood cells big and active, to feed them directly, well, that's the Steromax. That's a Steromax product that a lot of people are taking now, and if you combine that with the vitamin C and the vitamin D and the zinc and the selenium, you'll have a really dynamite immune system. And when your immune system is strong and active, you don't give the cancer cells a chance to grow into a tumor. You're going to have them, but you won't be able to, or at least they won't be able to grow. They will be destroyed before they multiply into a tumor that crowds out your tissues. It is always easier to prevent any disease than to cure it. So all diseases are like this. Cancer especially, very difficult to destroy cancer cells once a tumor has formed, though definitely not impossible, very doable, but it's much easier just to prevent it. Okay, cancer is, in my opinion, the most feared disease. When I'm in the office, a lot of clients mention they're scared if they have cancer. They ask me, did you see cancer? So the indicators, if you're in my office and I'm looking at your blood, you would have way too many white blood cells, especially these T-cell lymphocytes. So the good news is they're on the job. The bad news is you probably have cancer. But too many white blood cells is the big indicator. The conditions that lead to cancer before you have it, say a precursor, is the red blood cells will be puckered. Say, I use this term like a bottle cap. So that's called poikilocytosis. That's a fancy term for red blood cells that have been puckered and damaged from fumes and odors and even radiation. So it damages the cell membrane. Back to what you can do, though. You want to eat antioxidants that are found in fruits and vegetables. That also ties in to what I spoke about last week with respect to anti-aging. A lot of it is about getting rid of inflammation and feeding the mitochondria in your cells, and that's what the antioxidants do in the fruits and vegetables. Naturally, take your Steromax. There is nothing else like it. It feeds the white blood cells directly. So I want to mention a special type of cancer and tumor that's found in women, and it's extremely prevalent, and one way they can avoid it. 75% of women, by the time they're 50 years old, have fibroid tumors. So the women out there, you know what I'm talking about. And most cancerous tissues and also these fibroids, they always have undetectable levels of beta-carotene. So beta-carotene is found in your orange and yellow vegetables. Think of carrots. Think of yellow and orange bell peppers. And this beta-carotene converts to vitamin A in our bodies, and that's a really good thing. And if you're consuming enough of the various fruits and vegetables, especially the brightly colored ones, and in this case, the yellows and oranges, you're going to be able to make enough vitamin A so that you would diminish your chance of fibroid tumors and even uterine cancer. So also vitamin D inhibits these fibroid tumors that women get. Now, the cause for a lot of this is baby powder. This is especially true for women that utilize baby powder and they sprinkle it on or near their genitals. Okay, interesting topic, because the odds of developing fibroids and ovarian cancer in women that do that is doubled. So they just doubled their odds. And what a simple thing to avoid. Just stop doing it. Now, the makers of talcum powder, especially Johnson & Johnson, they know this. They've paid hundreds, not 100, hundreds of millions in damages, yet they still sell the product and they don't want to put a disclaimer on the package. So one specific type of cancer you can really minimize, you have control over. Now, another thing you can do is send me an email, and I will send you my cancer-fighting smoothie recipe. The ingredients in the recipe, well, those are the foods you would want to eat for fighting cancer or preventing it in the first place, which is really the smart way to go, is to just prevent it. So this smoothie recipe and how you make it is the same sort of thing you would pay if you had cancer, went to Mexico, spent up a little over $2,000 a day to spend a few days there, and most of the protocol would be a cancer smoothie, very similar to what I provide for no charge. So just if you don't have it, send me an email, just make a request, and I will respond with an attachment with this cancer-fighting smoothie recipe and how to make it, not just the ingredients, but the right way to make it. All right? So that's what I have for this week's podcast. Please share the content, and as always, thanks for listening.